I'm Andrew Byers. I'm the head cider maker here at Finnriver Farm and Cidery. And we are in our new production facility, and I would like to take a brief moment of time to articulate some of the differences and the different pathways that create the many ciders that Finnriver puts out. There is a specific goal that I have in mind in defining our harvest-based ciders that we put into 750 ml bottles, rather specifically. We also put those into kegs. The idea is to look at what comes from the harvest versus what comes from purchased in fruit, one of them making a rolling cycle and one of them being a very push-based cycle. So, to break that down, American cider is split into two pathways. One we call contemporary American cider. These are ciders made from dessert fruit apples not traditionally grown for making hard cider, and they're often full of adjuncts. And adjuncts is the not so fun and sassy way of saying things added into your cider. So we're talking berries of any variety, hops, hot peppers, herbs, spices, also called botanicals. Things of that nature, and you have cider plus something else to create a flavor profile, okay? That's your contemporary American cider. The people who are drinking that contemporary American cider, according to the latest Nielsen reports, are 50% men, 50% women between the ages of 22 and 35. And so we have this block of young folks that are adventurously drinking the contemporary nouveau, the thing that is most recently put out, the cider that can be made quickly, year-round, without any attachment to place or a point of origin. These drinkers are traditionally from the craft beer profile, and so we are pulling cider drinkers away from craft beer. Fair enough. On the other side of things, there is a whole tradition, legacy, and then now new growth in cider that is being made in the harvest-based method, in which fruit is grown specifically for making cider, and then that cider is meant to show that fruit, which makes it much more akin to wine. To look a little deeper at the ciders that are made from this harvest-based process, let's step into my hall of tanks, and I think I can pull a few samples and articulate a few of the more interesting facts that bring us to the difference between contemporary American ciders and harvest-based ciders. And I call them American ciders, whether it be contemporary or American harvest-based. And I say American over and over again because the apples that we are growing here in the United States are fundamentally not the same as the apples that are being grown in England, France, Spain, and Germany, which are the main cider-producing regions off European way. We have many of their varieties, but they're growing here, and we're making them with American influences and thought process and marketing and to our palate. And so even with the same apples, the cider that I'm making with the same French apples isn't coming out and tasting like a French cider because I don't have a large French culture that wants to taste that cider. And so I'm making cider for you, the American people, and it tastes different, and we like different things. What we're doing here is fundamentally unique, and what we're doing here at Finnriver is specifically speaking to the kind of like three variations of a cider. You have soil, you have water quality, and then you have the Cidermaker. This guy. In that context, we have variables to work with and play with that are creating something that is coming close to terroir, but not quite just yet. We're a young industry, and it's not about soil compounds and earth and rock. It's about place. And so we have place-based ciders. And that's what I wanted to drive home, is that the conversation is about place-based ciders. The conversation is about cider being made in the same vein that a winery would make wine, trying to speak to the hillsides, trying to speak from the orchard outside those walls, bring them into the tank and combine them with myself and put a little bit of that in a glass for you. That's where we're coming off, putting something in a 750 ml bottle. And that's where we're creating the demographic of a connoisseurship. Folks who are coming from wine-like connoisseurship over to cider-like connoisseurship, which is starkly different from those craft beer drinkers, right? And so I feel like we are specifically reaching for a different demographic when we put things into a different format bottle and when we use different apples that are specifically grown and cultivated to to make complex, deep ciders, right? You go from cider that is full of berries, that is pink, or cider that is made from dessert fruit that is kind of a light golden brown, into earthy ciders, mid-fermentation and with a bit of agitation, that is deeper and darker, right? And it has tannic profiles from the polyphenols that are present in the apple skins that we macerate for different levels of time to pull different levels of polyphenols from different varieties. Here at Finnriver, we grow 24 different cider varieties of apples, and those apples are all used specifically in different blends to articulate the roundness, to articulate the framework of what makes a cider. We're building structure, and that's something that isn't happening on the contemporary American cider side. On that side of making cider, we are using adjuncts like berries and hops, maybe in a whiskey barrel here and there, to build complexity. And on this side, we're using apples and winemaking tactics like yeast and maturation, barrel aging, staves, things along those lines, use of oak and alternative oak products to craft something that is high level and thoughtful.